But you are making a bold claim, Arthur. I don't see anyone. Wait, see, I was say nobody's talking about this.
Wait, y'all didn't know that? I have always believed since I was 15 years old that Kiss was an odd inclusion for Parade because it completely takes you away from the tone of the rest of the album. And while the Neon Telephone thing is reasonably recent, like I was kind of thinking, okay, well, if you take Kiss out of it, like, would you put it in there? I think Neon Telephone is a great drop in because coming behind Do You Lie on side 2 of Parade, where you have that French tone, no Lindrum and all of that, going into Neon Telephone, which is very synth heavy and 80s 4 on the floor, you still get that halftime breakdown at the end of Neon Telephone that gives you a precursor for Another Lover, Hole in Your Head, as is.
I actually agree. I agree with this take on how Kiss doesn't necessarily flow with the album, but I think if you do take it off, I think the album bombs. Like, well, I don't see without that first single.
Here's the thing, and I'm looking at it's small here, but yeah, that's it. It's a standalone single. 1986. Prince could have done a standalone. Still be promoting the album, technically promoting the film, because see, that's the thing about, like, if you check it out this way, there was a whole video done with girls and boys, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
They were in the club. The motif was the same, black and white. The whole revolution was there, in the same club with what the record store scene, right? With Tricky and Chris and Homegirl. We don't see that in 1986. I'm thinking, in reality, I think that was intended to be the lead single, Girls and Boys. But because Kiss was included, great video. That's actually my favorite Prince video, just him and Wendy and the dancer in it. I love it. But it's got nothing to do with promoting a film. It's got nothing to do with that at all, Whereas the Girls and Boys video that we didn't see, the Mountains video, all have that same Christopher Tracy, South of France Parade motif to tie in with the film.
That's what I'm saying. You take that out of it, though, I don't think, and I'm not saying that I feel this way, but I just think the Kiss is bigger than the film because
that's the thing. Kiss is bigger than the film.
There's nothing, I don't think, in that film that the audience is going to be an easy general person to, this is, you know what I mean? Like, I think Kiss gives you enough that this is that Prince and remember.
Right, but it's also new.
Right, but the other stuff, I think, is so advanced. I don't think the general audience, obviously they didn't take to it, right? Because after Kiss, they didn't take to Girls and Boys was a single. They didn't take to Another Lover. Those are great, but they didn't blow up. So I'm just saying, I think the movie ultimately really just fails because there's nothing that connects to the people, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not even remotely going to say that Kiss wasn't essential to driving sales of Parade, but I feel that's much more of a business decision for its inclusion than an artistic one. Not saying that there may not have been an artistic one, because I mean, we know that Prince was very particular about how he sequenced and how his albums were, both on the sides A's and and the side B's and everything. But I mean,
so I'll.
What up, Ted?
Hey, Ted.
I'll be the contrarian in that, because I enter songs lyrically. Kiss is the lyrical climax for Parade. For Under the Cherry Moon. When I heard the lyrics to Kiss, I actually completely understood the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's the When Doves Cry moment of the
right. It is. Yeah. See, yeah, it is the. So I get what everybody's saying sonically. I'm not. I want to be clear. I'm not disagreeing with anybody sonically, but lyrically, I'm glad you put it that way, Brother Dean. Lyrically, Kiss is similar. I would say it's a When Doves Cry moment or a Purple Rain moment, in that it is the moment where we see Christopher truly give himself over to the answer to love or money. Kiss lyrically is the answer. Love or money. Love or money is a question. I think we forget that because it's so funny. Love or money is an actual question. The lyrics to Kiss answer, because remember, how does love or money end? With him saying what it's gonna be, right? What it's gonna be in love. So then when you hear, so the moment that Christopher is in the car with Mary Sharon, because Mary Sharon at this point, why is she pissed off? Because this was a ruse. This was, you only wanted me for you made me fall in love with you, but you only wanted me for my money. And when
and what's wrong with that? And what's wrong with that?
Yeah, and you, brother, you sound like my uncle when Prince rejected the check, and my uncle was like, I don't understand that shit, boy. But let's move on. So and he said,
I don't see no problem.
He says, I love you, and Mary Sharon said, no, you don't love me. He said, well, then I hate you. And at that moment, she is then having to really, for herself, does this dude love me, or was it about money? So I say that lyrically, I want to be clear. I agree that sonically, I always felt like, sonically, it was a different thing. But lyrically, it is the moment that Prince through Christopher Tracy. It is the same reason that people don't really understand the meaning to the song Sexy Motherfucker. Because you hear Sexy Motherfucker shaking that ass for 5 minutes. And you completely forget the
and
first
I don't see no problem with that.
In a word, the first lyric is in a word or two. Is you I want to do. No, not your body, your mind, you fool. Sexy Motherfucker is Prince saying that what makes you a truly sexy motherfucker is that you are a spiritually and emotionally together person. But we don't
but they also saying to throw that ass in the sun.
Right. We don't get that because that. And so, so I'll just end by saying that. So, I'm with y'all. Sonically, it may not, but lyrically, you cannot tell the story on that album without the lyrics of Kiss. I'll shut up.
You know what, Reverend? You know what, Reverend? No. Stop. Because I haven't thought about it like that in a long time. But that's what made me pop in, because I was spying on y'all. And I said, that's true, man. Kiss is like, something real different. But you know what it made? Would have put Parade and really Under the Cherry Moon over the top was if Arms of Orion was on there.
All right.
Cut his mic up.
Hang on a second. So there's never been a time, Ted, I'm gonna let you finish. There's never been a time.
No, you don't want to let me finish. Trust me, you don't want to let me finish.
There's never been a time that I've gotten into it with C-Lee on a. This might be the time. And when we talk about all of this, obviously we're talking about events of 40 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 20 years ago. So we have the hindsight of being able to look back and apply these experiences to our own life events as we mature. Okay. I remember in 86 in the theater that when Kiss came on, the reaction was verbal, like, oh, here's the song. It was about the excitement of the song, because it's so great and powerful, being dropped into the film. And I say drop in because it's the most on the nose scene in the whole film.
Right.
And it just never, it's always, for me personally, I'm always giving my personal opinion. That being said, I am going to be proxy for like 5,000-6,000 people at the same time. It's always been a thing where it's like, this doesn't, like, it's like the action sequence of the film. It doesn't have anything to do with moving the story along, that they finally, kiss in the car and then the song comes on. Whereas Neon Telephone is part of the narrative of the story as a soundtrack to support a film and its narrative. And so I just never had that feeling about Kiss in the film, or on the album. Now, here's the thing. I love Kiss, but I respect the fact that it's got nothing to do with the conversation, because I'm like dragging the song, right? So I kind of feel like if Parade was really going to be the soundtrack of the film, it should end to end adhere to that agenda. And I just feel that Kiss was more of a business decision to drive sales of both the album and the film, to, you know, just to help its success. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't skip it when it comes on Parade. I mean, I'll always listen to Parade, you know, end to end, but it's always been kind of a look twice, like that doesn't really fit. And I agree with that. It's an incredible long version.
Yeah. I just wanted to add too that real quick. We talked about the movie and it being in the movie. And I was saying, you know, sort of placed in there the same way When Doves Cry is placed in the Purple Rain movie. You gotta. I have to tell myself, at least I'm hoping they didn't know it was going to be a hit when they're editing this movie, though.
That's my.
You know what I mean? Prince obviously knew this song can be a hit and should be, but they didn't know that it was going to work. But they knew enough to know that use it right here in the movie because it is going to elicit a reaction, because this song is the this song is the Prince that they know and love, and they're gonna love this. You know, this other stuff we know is, but this, they're gonna eat this up. And I think he knows what his audience, or at least the general public, would eat up that he does, and he makes a distinct decision to either do that style or not. And his previous albums, he's made the decision, I'm not doing that style on purpose because I'm going to be on some other stuff. But I think he knows, I need to make sure that this thing works. And if they like these grits over here with the butter and all, that's just a no-brainer. I'm going to give them the grits and butter because I'm not playing around here. And I think that's what he's doing. The same fact that he recognizes when he hears that song originally, it was supposed to be an afterthought. And I'm gonna just get around Mark some more bullshit there. Oh, nah, I need that. Matter of fact,
it's too good
I'm
for
not gonna
them.
even tell Mark and them that this is gonna be the lead single. He ain't gonna find out till he see the video on TV, because that's how much I know this is gonna blow. So to me, I think it's he knows exactly what he was doing, and he needs to have that to make it work. Like this is, and he was great in this period. His first singles were usually bangers, because he knew, like, I knew they don't like nothing else on this record. It's the one song that they're gonna get and they're gonna always listen to. So I think that's what he was doing.
My only point is that, and I don't disagree. I want to be clear. I don't disagree. I think two things can be true at once, right? That this could be a great economic decision. What I think is happening, though, is that the economic decision is causing y'all to actually discount the lyrical content of the song. And if we're gonna do if we're gonna just say deconstruct the film for a moment, if we look at the theme of the movie, love is more important than money. The message of Kiss is, it's the simple things that make love worth living. Like, lyrically,
you could argue Love or Money would have been the song to pick too.
Well, you don't have to be rich to be my girl, right? That's where you're.
Yeah, you don't have to be rich to be my girl. So
but it helps. But it helps.
I mean, I'm not going, I'm not going to discount that. And I just want to be clear. My point is not that y'all, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that y'all. I agree with y'all that it economically helped, right? It economically helped. I just think that because of its sonics, you may be discounting that the lyric of the song actually carries and fulfills the narrative of the movie.
Yeah, okay.
And that's to me why it works, because I will admit, there are a lot of songs that I don't dig sonically, that I dig them primarily, and I'm gonna do a flip-flop the way kind of me and Prof Duff kind of listen to songs. Like, there are songs that because there are songs that if they don't move me lyrically, I can't listen to them sonically. Like they're just, I'm just that linked into. So for me, that Kiss, I was with y'all. I knew that Kiss didn't sonically sound like everything that was on Parade, but it lyrically flowed in the narrative of the song.
All right. So I'm gonna kind of continue the conversation that we had before. I didn't jump in. So everybody knows that I don't think that Kiss fits on the Parade album. I think it's really interesting, Celie, that I've never thought about Kiss lyrically, but even in the film, it disrupts the film for me. You know, like it just like takes me out of the film. So like, and for me, it's sonically, like, you know me, I didn't really listen to the lyrics, but it was more of a sonic thing. So when I think of Kiss, I never think about Parade. I only think of Kiss. I already think about Kiss as a standalone single. One, someone pointed out in the chat a long time ago, that's in color, has nothing to do with like the Under Moon black and white aesthetic, and it sonically didn't fit. The song that I thought should have been on the album is Lover Money, because like you, that was like the whole point of Under the Cherry Moon. And I never, until today, I never thought about Kiss as an answer to the question of love or money. So thank you for that, Celie. I love that you're here, because I would have never made that. I was like, well, what is this doing on Parade? I just don't get it. But even after knowing lyrically about the tie-in, musically, I still don't think it fits. And I really wish that Love or Money, I played Love or Money like it was the single. So for me, the single was Love or, the A side was Love or Money, and the B side was Kiss for me, because I wasn't playing Kiss, I was playing Love or Money. I love that.
In fact, let me help you with your argument, which is kind of counter to my argument, because you said something sonically. The difference between what I call quiet movies and loud movies. So for an example, She's Gotta Have It is a quiet movie. So sonically, if you listen to the soundtrack, there's no loud songs on that soundtrack. There's no loud music in the actual soundtrack on the album. Same thing with Under the Cherry Moon. It's a quiet movie. As you say, then Kiss is really jarring, right? In that moment. And that's a particularly quiet moment. That's a particularly intimate moment. So I agree with you that it's jarring. The only thing I will say is that, and I don't know, because we all don't know what's happening in Prince's head, right? I wonder if it was because he wanted that moment to be jarring. I wonder if it was because he wanted it to be the wake up moment. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. Doesn't mean it works, right? Just because he may have wanted it. But if Kiss is the moment where Christopher gets it, maybe he wants that to get it. And that the problem for him is that basically just jarred every goddamn body, as opposed to, because to Brother Turnbull's point, people cheered. Now, right. I will say this though, coming back to what Brother D said about the performance. Here's what I remember distinctly about Purple Rain. So when Billy says, "What would you do in my shoes?" and when Dove's Cry kicks in, the theater explodes. 1 second later, though, so there's an explosion. And 1 second later, the entire theater goes, oh, because they thought a performance was coming.
Sure, yeah.
And to me, that shit is funny as hell, because I'll never get back on, yay, what the fuck? Like, it's Prince on a motorcycle, like, oh, he wasn't going to be on stage. Said, Billy, this is what you need to do in my position, is listen to this funk. So, but to your point, I get it. It's a quiet movie, and the disturbs the quietness of that movie, to which, again, going back to She's Gotta Have It, Spike doesn't break. The serenity, I think, is a word, which is really interesting to talk about She's Gotta Have It as a serene movie. It really is a serene movie, despite its topic, right, about this sexual, this woman taking sexual liberation. I'll shut up, because yeah. So I agree, even though I'm still with the lyric, but I get what your guys saying about the Sonics. Go ahead, Brother Turnbull.
I'm just saying, you don't think Prince was like, that's where we could put this song in? We can put it in right here.
I get what you're saying. But it's so lyrically, it answers so lyrically that I just really do think that he was like, this is the moment right? It goes back to when Christopher's talking to Tricky, like when two are in love, life is a parade, right? I really do think that for thinking about how Prince was thinking about themes and like, I really do think that he was willing to destroy the popularity of something if it made his point. Let me give you an example.
See, that I agree with.
Yeah. So let me give you an example. Let's look at the Nude tour for a moment. I was always upset that the electric chair wasn't played during the Nude tour. In fact, I would have preferred that if you're going to take a Batman song, I would have preferred that Electric Chair opens the Nude tour rather than The Future.
No.
But you know why? But you know why why I think he chose The Future?
Because it's hidden.
The message.
Yeah.
Prince is and I
okay.
You know
what
I'm saying? I get the sonics, I get the funk, and maybe this is a paper I've been thinking about writing or somebody. I've always believed that Prince has always chose message over music.
Mm.
I have always believed that and he does it in such a way that sometimes he will shoehorn in shit that don't fit sonically. Because the message, Prince was always about and so The Future was the message that he wanted, right? It had more of a message than Electric Chair, even though for me, sonically, I would have wanted. I'm still mad. I just think that I think that Electric Chair should have been performed on that damn.
I mean, I agree with you, and I mean, I'm being a little contrarian for comedic effect, but I mean, The Future and Electric Chair, that 1-2 hits as hard as Controversy and Sexuality, and
I'm with you.
Everything in between hasn't hit like that, you know. So you got to open with The Future, but I hear what you're saying, and I do agree with it. I mean, I agree with the idea that Prince would, cannibalize or kill his own product for the sake of getting over the message with some, with some additional product.
Yeah.
I wonder though if so between what you just said about Kiss and the lyrical content of it and what D'Angelo has been talking about as Under the Cherry Moon being Prince at his authentic self. It's taking me a while. It's helped my acceptance of Under the Cherry Moon. It's never been a favorite for mine. But it's the Godfather compared to Graffiti Bridge, in my view. But what I'm getting to is, like, all that aside, I felt that Parade as a whole in the Kiss extended version specifically, really, it felt like Prince was a person and was human and was opening up to who he was and bringing you in, and that comedy and that nuance in the dialogue between like him and Jill and some of the things that he would say, woman overboard, everybody going down and all that, was him at his playfulness. And I did feel that the Christopher Tracy portrayal, particularly with the interaction with Tricky, was a little over the top. And so at that time, it was a little rigid for me. And I was 15, and as I got a little older, 16, 17, 18, 19, I rejected it as all but buffoonery, right? But I think it was a dramatic performance of who he was. But in the music, in the album context, and also in the concert context, because that's the thing, he's a lot more interactive in the shows,
right?
That you didn't see in the videos, that you didn't see in the persona on the records as much. And I think and Parade for me was like this ebbing away from that. The Parade tour, the Sign of the Times tour, the Love Sexy tour, where even in the interplay during the arena performances where there's such a strict set list and timings, there was still that humanistic Prince of him as a person to a degree. He's still a superstar.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't touch me. You know what I mean? But he was still that accessible person. And I really, really, really felt that in the music.
So to your point, Prof. Duff, can you highlight Bordeaux 8791? All right, Bordeaux 8791. This ain't for you. I'm responding to what you said. This ain't for you. This is for our good friend Nicolay, right? This is for our good friend Nicolay, because Nicolay kind of coined the term judgy Prince. But I'm answering you, Bordeaux 879. But Nicolay kind of coined the term judgy Prince. And this is where you may be off a bit about that, because, and I'm going to say it again for the 1,000th time, if you either didn't like, not you, Bordeaux, but just anybody, if you either didn't like or were offended by the messages on the Rainbow Children, that's because your dumb ass hadn't been listening from day one. Because the Prince on Controversy
Same
dirty mind.
Judgy, that's a judgy motherfucker on that.
Right.
The Prince on Listen to Those Songs. Prince was message over everything on Controversy. He was a judgy ass person. The only difference between Controversy and the Rainbow Children is now some of us are being judged, as opposed to on Controversy, Prince was judging people we don't like. So to say that the music fell off because of Prince's messaging is kind of what I want to say. I would just say it's off base, given from the fact that you can't listen to an album like Controversy. Look at the cover. The Controversy Daily. It's all about him wanting to be messaging. Dirty Mind, you get Party Up is an anti-war song. You get all of these songs. Prince was always about message. Prince, as a black man, did a song in 1978 about teenage pregnancy. Why was that important? Because teenage pregnancy was destroying the black community. And Prince was one of the few people who wrote a song about teenage pregnancy at a time when nobody was talking about teenage pregnancy. So to talk about somehow Prince's messaging being, no, he was always judgy Prince. He was always forthright Prince. It's just that as his career went on, some of us didn't like the things he was saying. So his music, or he didn't fall off because of his messaging. Maybe some people just got tired of or didn't like the things he was saying. I'll shut up.
I wanted to add back to, just going back to D'Angelo was talking about with the kiss and everything and the disruption. I feel like Housequake is the same sort of thing. It just, when it comes on, it's just, and I think that's a part of Prince, is to always have something that whatever you think is about to happen, you know, how about, and then he launches into that other, that Prince, that the song and dance, and I just think he was on brand by putting Kiss out. And I think Kiss is, it promotes Prince even more so than it promotes the movie. And I think Under the Cherry Moon, the movie has to deal with now Prince is a superstar and he's bigger than the movie. Which I think is why the movie doesn't necessarily work for the general public, because they want to see Prince. They're getting something else, which is, to your point, he's putting his message over your expectations. But I just think too, that's just a part of his whole career has been like that. Well, at least to this point, he becomes bigger than the product, and people want to see him and not necessarily his art. Right. And his art may be different.
Yeah, that's a great point. Or what he wants to really say.
What they're doing. And I think later in his career, he sort of understands that point. Like, when I go on tour, I'm giving you Prince.
Right.
My art is for sale. Y'all not going to listen to it no way. So I'm not going to even play it in the concert. I'm going to give you exactly what you want. Right. But I'll save that for the smaller gigs from my fans, where I'm going to give them the art that they really want. They don't care to see the superstar Prince. They want to see the newest, hottest, latest message that I'm on. And I think that's something he's always had to wrestle with.
Right. And to your point, I was, by the time Sign of the Times came out, I was the kid that the other kids would, because I was always going to get the Prince album first. So they would come down and I would play the album for them. And it's funny you make that point, because of course we'd all heard Sign of the Times, right? That was the lead single. Housequake is the third song on the album, if I remember correctly. And what I remember in that listening session, Sign of the Times plays, everybody seems like kind of grooving, Playing the Sunshine plays, everybody's grooving. When Housequake comes on, it stopped being an album listening session and it became a party. That's like one of my favorite memories from that time. Is at the moment, so like you said, it drastically changed. It sonically changed, right? So yes, and again, I didn't think about, to your point, was Prince purposely doing that? But I do remember that it stopped being a listening session and it became no. Let me put that back up. And see, you're I don't know if you're misunderstanding me or if you're misquoting me. So I don't know which is which. That's not what I said. My point is, he was equally concerned with both. That if you think that Prince somehow had, because let me go back. And we had him on, so you can go listen to when we interviewed Mr. Hayes. So you can find it with D'Angelo's interview with Mr. Hayes, or you can find, he said it twice. Mr. Hayes asked Prince, he said, what all the things that you do best. He said, you play guitar, you play bass, you do this, you do that. With all of the things, Prince, what do you think that you do best? And Prince's answer was, at the end of the day, I'm a poet. At the end of the day, I like making statements. So Prince was as equally concerned about his lyrics as he was about the music. And I'm not saying, there we go. I'm not saying one over the other. My point was that if Prince is making a decision about what song to include in a concert, or what songs to include in a movie, whatever project, it's going to come down to, do the lyrics of the song fit the messaging of the entire thing? That's the point I was making. I'll shut up.